A good Yom Tiv, Gemar Tov. Yom Kippur is a day for confession, so I'll confess a lasting interest in the history and literature of the Jews of Germany. Jews lived quite well in Germany for 17 centuries until we didn't. This story took place in the last years of German Jewry in Berlin on Yom Kippur. It was told by the Seridei Eish, Rabbi Yechiel Yaakov Weinberg, who was the last rector of the Berlin Rabbinical Seminary, ordaining rabbis until it closed in 1938. Just after World War I, probably in the year 1921, Rabbi Weinberg was davening in a shul in Berlin for Yom Kippur. As the Kehillah was about to start Yizkor, a limousine with a police escort pulled up out front of the shul, and out stepped Walter Rathenau, a leading German industrialist who had just been named the foreign minister of the new Weimar Republic. Rathenau was a controversial figure. His enemies considered him a literal elder of Zion. In fact, this would be his last Yom Kippur in this world. He was assassinated the next summer by an anti-Semitic terrorist group. But this Yom Kippur, Rathenau walked into the shul. He recited the Yizkor prayer for his late father, Emil Rathenau, and then he turned around and left. Many in the Kehillah were upset and outraged by this chutzpah, even for a foreign minister to show up for a few minutes in shul by car just to say Yizkor and then get in the car and drive away. They felt it was rude and insulting. There was a bit of a tumult in shul as people voiced their outrage to this arrogance. So Rabbi Weinberg asked to say a few words to the crowd. He quoted a statement of the Talmud in Tractate Chulin, Perek Yid Hanasha, about page 91b or so. It says that when Jacob, our patriarch, Yaakov Avinu, left Be'er Sheva to go to Haran in Genesis chapter 28, along the way he had a sudden realization. He said, both my father Isaac and my grandfather Abraham prayed at Mount Moriah, and here I've passed it by, and I've not prayed there. Immediately he turned around and went back to Mount Moriah to pray, wound up sleeping there overnight, which is when his famous dream with the angels and the ladder occurred. Rabbi Weinberg continued, now Yaakov knew that God is everywhere, and God hears and answers our prayers wherever we offer them. At the same time, he also understood that it's important to connect our prayer to our parents. So it follows from this, we should not scorn Minister Rathenau for coming to shul to remember his father in prayer. Then he added one further thought. He said the place where Jacob prayed would eventually become the site of the Beis HaMikdash, of the great temple in Jerusalem. But he did not give that as his reason for wanting to pray there. He only said that since his father and grandfather had prayed there, that is what compelled him to return and daven there. So when he told the story, he left hanging in the air the significance of the foreign minister's desire to pray in a synagogue on Yom Kippur. That was 1921. Fast forward now a few decades, Rabbi Abba Weingart, who was a student of the Seridei Eish, was giving a lecture in Modi'in, in Israel, on the subject of honoring parents. He told this story about his teacher, Rabbi Weinberg, that took place in the shul in Berlin many years before. In the course of telling this story, one man burst out saying, I can't believe you're telling that story. Emil Rathenau was my grandfather. My mother was Walter Rathenau's sister, cries out this Israeli man. Then the man told his own story. He grew up in Berlin in a non-religious home. But one time he was visiting an Orthodox synagogue in Hamburg, and he was captivated by the melodies in the services. That was the beginning of his inspiration to come to Israel, where he became a Baal Tshuva. Walter Rathenau himself never married or had children, but his nephew not only moved to Israel, but also became part of the religious community. So, telling the story about the story, Rabbi Weingart noted that when we mention parents during Yizkor, the neshamas are awakened in Shemayim, and merit adds to their souls. Who knows, he says, if Walter's remembering his late father on that Yizkor, on Yom Kippur in Berlin, brought about that his grandson would eventually make such a significant change in his life. Since at Yizkor, we're going to use the wonderful booklets that we print up every year and use in Shul to recall our loved ones. There will be a few minutes today when you don't have your Rabbi Sachs Machzor in hand. So let me share with you just a few sentences of Rabbi Sachs's insight into these Yizkor prayers. Keep in mind that Rabbi Sachs's fifth Yortzeit is coming up in just a few weeks, and hopefully by studying his words and being affected by them, we are bringing about an elevation to his neshama. Rabbi Sachs says that in Judaism we remember not just for the past, but also and especially for the sake of the future. As he mentions in his notes on the Kol Nidre remembrance passages, you see that the word Yizkor appears in connection with Noah. God remembered Noah, brought him out into dry land. Connection with Abraham, that God rescued Abraham's nephew Lot from the destruction of Sodom. And it says God remembered Rachel. He remembered her and gave her a child. Each of these situations was for the sake of the future, for the sake of life going forward. Rabbi Sachs continues, the Jewish people gave two majestic ideas, their greatest religious expression, memory and hope. Memory is our living connection to those who came before us. Hope is what we hand on to the generations yet to come. Those we remember live on in us, in words, gestures, a smile here, an act of kindness there that we would not have done had that person not left their mark on our lives. That's what Yizkor is. Memory as a religious act of thanksgiving for a life that was and still sends its echoes and reverberations into the life that is. For when we remember, says Rabbi Sachs, we remember for the future, the place where, if we're faithful to it, the past never dies. That's the end of Rabbi Sachs. Now me. So we're giving voice to our hope for the future, that in remembrance of those who came before us, that we connect with a practical act of impacting the world for good. We pledge tzedakah, we give tzedakah. We're part of the solution of making humankind and making our world better. We will not even accept that things will stay as they are. We insist on doing something to make the world better in some way. This seemingly simple act of pledging in our hearts and minds to give tzedakah in connection with the Yizkor prayers, and then our hurrying to make good on those pledges tonight or tomorrow, even before Shabbos, is the best we can do to bring past, present, and future all together in one moment. The secret of Yom Kippur is that we are above time and above space. We're not even concerned with eating. The spiritual is our main focus today. By rising above time with our Yizkor pledges and with our Ne'ilah prayer later this afternoon, we connect in the most real and infinite way with God, the source of all being, who is above and beyond time and space and all the petty resentments and slights that we allow to fill our world. Because this moment, for this day, we glimpse eternity. We know we have a share in it, and with our prayers, we bring some of heaven down to earth, and we lift up the earthly to something higher. May this Yom Kippur continue to be a transformative and inspirational one for all of us throughout the entire year and beyond. A gut Yom Tif, a gut Yor.